All right, it is 7 o'clock. I apologize for Sunday. You know what? I'm not even going to apologize for Sunday. I was kidnapped for my birthday. So between Easter and between my birthday, I've been off doing my every Wednesday and Sunday. But birthday is over. Well, I celebrate for my whole month, but Easter is over. So we will be back to every Wednesday, every Sunday. Sorry about that. So, oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. It was a lovely birthday. And yeah, it was great. It was good Easter. It was a good birthday. It was kind of a little break for me, but let's get to it because we've all got tests to pass. Hello, Miss Stacy. Hello, Miss Caroline. Hello, Miss Anita. So let's get right into it where we left off with number 80. Ooh, taking a sip of water there. Okay, number 80. A tenant rents an apartment under a periodic tenancy, paying $1,500 a month. The tenant fails to pay October rent. On October 15th, the landlord changes the locks while the tenant is at work and places the tenant's belongings in the hallway. Which statement best describes this situation? So, one of the things I want to work on, for a long time I've worked on, okay, let's go through and see which answer is right and wrong. That's great too, but let's also talk about how to break down these questions. Now, when I look at this question, the first thing I need to see is that there's a periodic tenancy, otherwise known, now this is going to be a non-freehold. It's a non-freehold estate, which is also called a leasehold. I can spell hold. And we know that it's a period to period. So when you're doing your studying, because remember, taking questions is not studying. Studying the information in the questions, that is studying. So, what do we know about a periodic tenancy? We know that it goes from period to period to period. It automatically renews. So, let's say you had a 6 month periodic tenancy. We know you're going to have 6 months. And if neither party, neither the tenant nor the landlord ends it, then we know it rolls into another 6 month period. And then after that 6 month period or right before it ends, if neither the landlord or the tenant says anything, then it rolls into another 6 month period. So it just keeps rolling over and over. Okay. But this tenant failed to pay rent, and then the landlord changes the locks and places the tenant's belongings in the hallway. Mm. I can tell you right now, in every state, you need to go and get a judicial eviction. Landlords have no right to just kick your stuff out. You got to go through the courts. So in this case, knowing what the periodic tenancy is, I mean, that's helpful in all, but, and it's a good review. But what I know and what you know is that if it is truly, not even if, the laws are going to say, hey, you got to go through the courts and do this. Changing the locks would be what we call peaceable self-help, right? That's not allowed. So let's see which one of those answers matches that. We got A. The landlord acted within their rights because the tenant breached the lease by non-payment. No, that's not right. B, the tenant waived the right to proper eviction by failing to pay rent. Nope. The landlord's actions constitute an illegal self-help eviction, regardless of the tenant's default. Well, hey, I just mentioned that self-help. Yeah, that Okay. And then the landlord may proceed this way only if the lease includes a lockout provision. I mean, that sounds like it would be good, but that whole lockout provision is not a thing. So, yes, Anita, you're correct. Tricks, hey, Tricks, you're correct. Stacy, you're correct. Our answer is going to be C. Good job. Good job. We love it. Y'all are getting these answers right. I mean, you really are. My people who come back every week, you're getting them right, and that's what I love, right? We got to feel more confident. And if it helps to imagine I'm talking through these answers with you on the test, cool. because I know you know the information. It just so happens when I'm doing this with you, we're just taking our time and we're catching the mistakes. I promise you're going to have enough time on the exam. All right. A home buyer's inspection reveals that the property's septic system is failing and needs a replacement at a cost of approximately $25,000. The contract contains a general inspection contingency, so contingency is a good word, with a 10-day resolution period. You probably want to remember 10 days. On day 8, the buyer requests the seller pay for a new septic system. The seller offers $10,000 toward the cost. Which statement is correct? Okay. Well, in order to answer this, before we even look at the answers, we got this failing septic system, and it'll cost $25,000 to fix it. We got this 10-day resolution and inspection contingency, and we know contingency is like an out. It gives the client, the one of the parties, an out. It's an exit clause. All right. And day 8, the buyer requests the seller pay for a new septic system, and the seller only offers $10,000 towards the $25,000. Now, my guess is since you have a contingency, that contingency says, hey, if such and such doesn't happen, then I can get out. So, is it A, the buyer may accept the seller's offer, reject it, and terminate the contract under the inspection and contingency, or propose a different resolution within the contingency period? I mean, I like that. Why do I like it? Because you could accept the seller's offer, or you could reject it and terminate the contract under the inspection contingency, blah, 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 or propose a different resolution. I don't have a problem with any of those answers. B, the buyer must accept the seller's counteroffer. No, because the seller responded in good faith. No, it was only $10,000. I think it's not it. C, the seller's refusal to pay the full amount constitutes a breach of contract. No, the seller hasn't breached the contract. The buyer asked for something during this inspection period. The seller didn't do anything wrong. So it's not a breach. It's that breach word that gives us a problem here. Or D, the inspection contingency automatically extends until both parties agree on a resolution. Anytime you see this word automatically, that should be highlighted. No, that's not going to be it. And it doesn't just automatically extend because there's a 10-day period. So it's not D, making our answer. Yes, Miss Stacy, Caroline, and Anita got it right. Woo, A, Tricks, you got it right. A sounds fair. It does. It does, because that is our right answer. Right? And I do want to highlight with a different color this one right here that said, oh, there was a breach of contract. Remember, a breach of contract is saying you didn't do something you promised to do. And this seller never promised to fix the septic system. They aren't breaking a promise that they made in the contract, so it can't be a breach. That's how they try to get you. They try to throw words that you know you've seen before. And yeah, we do talk about, contract breaches. But remember, not all breaches terminate all contracts. And in order to breach, you had to break one of your promises. That didn't happen here. All right. And of course, you all can ask questions as needed. I miss this. I really did. I love doing this with you all. Okay. 82 and a sip of water. All right. Next, we have a building was constructed in 1975 and contains asbestos insulation. So we know that's going to be a thing around the heating pipes. Not uncommon. A prospective buyer hires an inspector who identifies the material as asbestos containing. The asbestos is in good condition and undisturbed. Under current environmental guidelines, which is the most appropriate course of action? All right, what do we know about asbestos? We know it's an environmental hazard. We know that when it is friable, and remember, that's spelled F-I-R-A-A-B-L-E. When it is friable, when it can be breathed in, it can cause lung and sometimes stomach cancer. So we know that. Does a seller have to replace it? No. There's no law that says all asbestos must be immediately removed, but it should probably be talked about and addressed. If now it also says that it is in good condition and undisturbed. Well, that means it's not friable, so it may not cause cancer. So let's see. Oh, we got Anita saying the answer is B. We got Stacy Caroline saying D. Let's look at it. The seller must abate all asbestos regardless of condition. Nope, we don't like that must. B, encapsulation or management in place may be appropriate if the material is intact and undisturbed. Okay, I don't have a problem with that one. The presence of asbestos automatically renders the property unmarketable. No, it's not like it's radioactive. Or asbestos must be removed immediately before any sale could proceed. I mean, again, D just sounds a little bit too far. It doesn't have to be removed. And remember, it's in good condition and undisturbed. So, yeah, you might want to encapsulate it. So, basically, make it so that if it does, it can't get out in the air or some type of other management. So, yes, our answer is B. Nice job, ladies. And if there's a gentleman here listening online, you too. Oh, change into B. Change into B. So, yes, Miss Anita got it. It makes sense now, I'm hoping. Oh, and Miss Trix got it too. Hey. All right, 83. A listing agent receives a call from a potential buyer who has a heavy foreign accent. The agent says, I'm sorry, but I think you might be more comfortable working with an agent who speaks your language and provides a referral. This action most likely constitutes. All right, so we got somebody who's got a heavy foreign accent. And then they're saying, I think you might be more comfortable working with an agent who speaks your language. So the question is, did they breach any kind of fair housing laws? And if so, which one? All right, let's see. So 83, Caroline, you're saying C. Anita, you're saying C. Okay, well, let's look. Good customer service by matching the buyer with a more suitable agent. I mean, they didn't say you suck, get out. I could see how somebody might think about that one. B, a permissible business decision under the agent's right to choose clients. C, a violation of the Fair Housing Act based on national origin discrimination. Or D, a violation only if the agent explicitly mentions the buyer's national origin. This is a great question, right? Now, I'm going to go with, and I happen to know our answer for number 83 is C. The answer is C. So if you got that right, Miss Caroline, Miss Anita, and Miss Stacy, and Miss Trix, you all understand this could be discrimination because you have a heavy accent. And I mean, generally, if we're talking about in the United States, we're assuming that the language, the national, not that we have a national language, but it would be if somebody were to ask probably English. So somebody with a thick accent is probably coming from a different country. And to say, I'm not going to work with you because of that, that could be considered discrimination. When it comes to discrimination, especially fair housing, it is not about what you said or did. It is about what you said or did and how it made the other person feel. And if the other person felt like, oh, you don't want to work with me because I have an accent from a different country, that could be discrimination. Go for it, Miss Anita. What's your question? Oh,
Hey,
wait,
hi,
before you
Candice.
ask it, wait, let me share my sound so that people online can hear the question too. Cool. Go for it. Now you can ask.
So I have a question here related to the language itself. Like I am an English speaker and I do not know Spanish. And if a Spanish speaker comes to me and asking for something and I do not understand, do I discriminate on that part? No.
No, well, if you can't communicate it with them at all, like I've
Mm-hmm.
definitely worked with people in the past where I had somebody translating, right?
Oh.
So in that way, I wish this this question was a little bit more definitive, but I do
Mm-hmm.
like in the fact that if somebody does speak Spanish and you don't speak Spanish and you're just like, well, I
Mm-hmm.
won't work with you, they could be like, oh, well, you're discriminating against me because of blah, blah, blah. So, like I was saying, it's not about what you said or did, it's how you made them feel. And now they could be like, well, I feel like you discriminated on because of this. Right now,
Mm-hmm.
I think in the real world, people, I mean, how are you even going to get there? How are they going to know that you said, I can't work with you? And how are you going to know they even said, I want to work with you and not, how do I get to the nearest Dairy Queen? Which is
Got
always a
it.
good question. So in
Yeah.
real life, I think this is more about making sure you understand your actions could constitute discrimination, even
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't intend to. And in the test question, in the world of the test, it's, hey, you can't just say, I don't want to work with you because of this language barrier. Does that make sense?
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. And Trix asked the difference, it's the thick accent, not the understand it all. Yeah, the thick accent, I think they're trying to confuse us. Now, again, I say they, and I'm giving a they to AI. I think AI could have done a better job of separating this out and saying, it's a heavy foreign accent. Foreign accent doesn't necessarily mean that you don't speak the language. I mean, you it's not a very, very clear question. I don't think it would be a test question worded like this, but I do think it's a good reminder of you don't want to do or say anything as much as possible that somebody could be like, well, I think you were discriminating against me. So, good question for good conversation. I think a test question, a real test question, would be a lot clearer. All right. So, 84. Oof, math. I don't even mind because it's been so long. A property sells for 425,000 and the buyer puts 10% down. So we got a purchase price of 425, they put 10% down. The conventional lender requires PMI. The annual PMI rate is 0.55% of the original loan amount. What is the monthly P&I payment? Okay, well, PMI we know is private mortgage insurance. And this buyer has to pay it because they put 10% down. So that means, and we'll do it the long way, if I do the 425 times 10%, that would give me, what is that, $42,500, pretty sure, but yep, they put $42,500 as a down payment. So that means their loan was for the 425 minus the 42,500. So that means our loan amount was for 382,500. Okay. Now what we can do is we know if this is our loan, the annual PMI rate is 0.55%. So we're talking about about half a percent. So I'm going to take 382,500 and nope, I don't even mean to divide. Bloop, bloop, bloop. I'm going to divide that or multiply that by 0.55%. There's a point and 5, it's not 1%, it's like half a percent. So that decimal place matters. So if you were to take this and take it out of uh, percentage signs, right? We got to move the decimal two to the right. So it's 0.0055 nope, not percent. That would be our decimal. So let's do it. We got 382,500 times 0.55%. That gives me $2,103.75. Now remember, this is the annual PMI. Oopsie. Annual PMI. And it's asking what the monthly payment is. So now I got to take that and I've got to divide it by 12. So 2103.75 divided by 12. We got 175.31. That's my final answer. And lucky for us, woo woo, that is the answer that is there. D. Hey, okay. I see you, Stacy and Anita, getting that right. I see y'all. hmm Ooh, more math. Okay. A licensed broker manages a property and collects $4,800 a month in rent from a commercial tenant. The management agreement specifies a 7% management fee. So we got 7% management fee, 4,800 a month in rent. The broker also receives a $200 a month maintenance coordination fee. If the tenant's rent is prorated for a mid-month move out on the 18th of a 30-day month, what total compensation does the broker earn for that final month? Okay, well, seems like a lot of steps, but let's walk through it. So if we got $4,800 a month, I could find out how much that is per day. So I'm going to take, this is just how I would go about it. I would take this $4,800 and I would divide by 30 days because that's going to give me a daily amount. So I'm going to say 4,800 divided by 30. That gives me $160 a day. Now, this tenant is moving out on the 18th. So they're moving out on the 18th. I'm assuming that means they're paying for the 18th. So we're talking about the 1st through the 18th, which would be 18 days, which I'm going to multiply by 160. So 160 times 18 equals 2,880, right? Because that would be the rent that was owed. So instead of paying $4,800, they'd be paying $2,880. That's the rent that's coming in. And that manager gets 7% of that. So 2,880 times 7% gives me 201.60. That is the management fee. But don't forget, we also have a $200 a month maintenance coordination fee. So I'm going to add $200 to that, and that gives me the coordination 401.60. That is one of our answer choices. Let's see if I did that one right. Number 85. Hey, the answer C. The answer C. Hey, the answer C. Do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance. Hey, 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 go me. It's my birthday. Hey, it really is my birthday month. Woohoo. So yes, 401.60 is our answer. Again, you could probably go about that different ways. But that's how my mind thinks about it. I just try to take it step by step. For my California people, when you get out in the real world, when you got to do numbers, you'll be doing these same things. And for my California people, I know on your broker's exam, there's math. So, it doesn't hurt to learn it so that when you do become brokers, you remember the little people, me being the little people, and you'll already know what you're doing. All right, 86. Nice job, Miss Trix. You got C. Good, Anita. It took me a second to get to that answer too. You said you got C, but it took you a little time to calculate. Samesies. Absolute samesies here. All right, 86. An appraiser is valuing a property using the cost approach and must determine the appropriate land value. Okay. Cost approach, they're trying to come up with the land value. The appraiser has identified 4 comparable vacant land sales. Which technique is the appraiser using? Now, I know it's saying they're valuing the property using the cost approach, but remember the cost approach means you come up with the value of the land plus the depreciated value of the structure. And this right here is the traditional when we think about the cost approach. And, is it going to be a replacement or is it going to be, what's the other word? Similar. That's replacements or reproduction.
Reproduction.
Thank you, ma'am. I had to think about it. Right? Or reproduction. That's all that stuff. And then the types of depreciation. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for land. And we know the only way to come up with the value of land is the sales comparison approach or the market, data approach, whatever you want to call it. And look, B's got that answer right there. The direct sales comparison method for land valuation. We knew that. Hopefully, we don't look at all these other answers and go, well, I guess that could be it. No, we know that's one of those facts that you know. The only way to come up with the value of land, sales comparison. All right. 87. A property was appraised for $350 using the sales comparison approach. The cost approach yielded $380 and the income approach yielded $335. The property is a single-family residence in a suburban neighborhood with adequate comparable sales data. Okay, so if it's going to be a single-family residence in a suburban area and there's lots of comparables, then more than likely we should be using the sales comparison approach as the most influence on our answer. So in the final reconciliation, the appraiser should most likely, is it A, give the most weight to the sales comparison approach since it is the most reliable indicator for residential properties with adequate comparables? I do like that answer, but let's make sure the other ones aren't better. B, use the highest value to provide the most favorable result? Nope, absolutely not. C, use the income approach since it represents the lowest, most conservative estimate. Well, no, you only really focus on the income if it's an income approach, if it's an income producing property. Or average the three approaches. No, we don't just flat average. So our answer is A. This is one of those questions that sounds more complicated than it is. Right? It sounded like it was going to be long, but no, not too bad. 88. A property has 3 liens. First mortgage recorded in 2019 for $2,000. A mechanics lien filed in 2020 for $35,000. And let's make a list. We got 2019 for $200,000 and it's a mortgage. We have a 2020 lien for $35,000 and that's a mechanics lien. And a property tax lien for $8,500 in 2021. Now, at this point, we don't know much, but we do know what? Tax liens, property tax liens are always the first lien paid in a foreclosure. We know the first item paid is, of course, the cost of sale, the attorneys. But the first lien paid are the property tax liens. So we know that in a foreclosure sale, which lien has the highest priority? It's going to be the tax lien. Now we just got to find the answer that says that. It's not all 3 share equal priority because we know liens generally get paid off in the order that they're recorded. They don't share priority. B, the mechanics lien because it relates to improvements. Nope. C, the property tax lien because tax liens generally have a superior priority. Yep, we like that one. Or D, the first mortgage because it was recorded first. Nope. Long question, easy answer. We knew this. C. 89. A commercial tenant installs custom shelving, display cases, and a built-in refrigeration unit in their leased retail space. At the end of the lease, the tenant wants to remove these items. These items are classified as, so these look like fixtures that the tenant installed in a commercial space. We haven't even looked at the answer choices, but does anybody know what those are called? When a tenant, when a tenant puts
Trade
in
fixture?
trade fixtures, yes, and look, see, boom. Trade fixtures that the tenant generally, okay, has the right to remove before the lease expires. We like that one, but let's make sure the other ones are wrong. Fixtures that automatically become part of the building regardless of the tenant's intent. Nope, it's a tenant. It's not it. Real property that belongs to the landlord upon lease termination. No. We like C. You know, they have the right to remove them as long as they repair any damage. Or D, personal property that the landlord must purchase from the tenant. Nope. Our answer is C. Y'all knew it. We like it. We like it, love it, like it. Okay. Pretty good. 90. A real estate agent discovers that a buyer client is planning to use a purchased property to manufacture illegal drugs. What's the agent's best course of action? Get in for a percentage of the profits. No, that is the wrong. Oh, you can hear the cookie song for that one. I just saw that. Okay, I can do the cookie song.
C is for cookie. That's good enough for me.
But if I do the cookie song, we cannot leave it all alone.
I like carrots, and you should too. It goes crunch, 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 and it's good for you.
We like carrots.
And you should too. It goes
Crunch, crunch, crunch. And now that we're talking about seafoods,
It's cold. A big open nose. It has the juice. It has the juice. I got a more beautiful thing.
that little boy, he likes corn way too much. All right. So back to our illegal drugs. I mean, I like money as much as the next person, but let's not go to jail for it. Because as I say, nobody looks good in federal prison orange. I'm not trying to be in a gang. I'm already in a sorority. That's enough for me. So what is our agent's best course of action? A, ignore the information since property use after closing is not the agent's concern. I mean, no. No. You can't just ignore it. No. Continue the transaction because the agent's duty of loyalty prevents the disclosure of client information. It says illegal. If you knew they were going to murder people on site, would you just ignore that too? Absolutely not. Withdraw from the representation as agents are not required to assist in illegal activities. I like that answer. Or D, complete the transaction, but report the buyer to authorities after closing. You know what? That's how snitches get stitches. I'm not comfortable with D. I'm not trying to get stitches. Absolutely not. So let's go with C. Withdraw from the representation and then just, you ain't in it. Your name's Bennett, you ain't in it. Just no. No, that's gonna be our best answer choice. C. But again, I'll come visit you. If you choose D, I will come. Well, I won't come visit you because they might be watching you. I will bring you cookies in the hospital as you heal your stitches because you snitched. Just saying. All right, 91. A property's lot measures 150 feet wide by 200 feet deep. All right, let me just draw that. So we know wide is this way. Let's say this is the road. We know it's 150 feet wide and it's 200 feet deep. Going that way is 200 feet. Is this to scale? No. Do we care? Also no. Local zoning requires a 20-foot front and rear setback and 10-foot side setbacks. What's the maximum footprint of the lot? Okay. Well, if we're doing 10-foot side setbacks, we got to go 10 feet this way and we got to go 10 feet that way. So that's 10 times 2. So we're doing that 150 feet minus 20 feet, which is 130 feet. So really, you can only build from here to here. Right? And then the same thing happens for your front and back, right? Front and back, you got 20 foot. So let's do a different color for that one. From the back, we have to do 20 feet. And from the front, we have to do 20 feet. So that's 40 feet. So we're going to do the 200 minus 40. Now let me stop right there. Does everybody understand why and how I did that? We basically made this a lot smaller. We said, oh, we don't get the whole property. We only get what's in the green. So we took off 40 from the top, 20 from the top, 20 from the bottom, and then 10 from each side. So that would be 160. So 130 feet by 160 feet. Let's see. Now, I'm hoping this is right, y'all know I have never done this before. So 130 times 160. Now, you're wondering 130 times 160. Why? Because width times length, that's going to give us our area. So when I do that, I get 20,800 square feet. And that's our answer A. Maybe there are people out there that could look at that and do that in their heads. Bully for them. I ain't one of them. I had to draw that out. I don't just draw it out for y'all. I had to draw girl tricks. Again, if I was taking this test, what I would do is literally skip this until later, because it's not a naturally easy problem for me mentally. I have to draw it out and think about it and make sure I'm doing it right. And I don't want to take that mind power away during a test. I would probably go like, save for later. Because on your exam, you can mark things to come back to. Can I do it? Yes. Do I want to do it at first? Probably not. So it's okay to do that, y'all. And if it's really going to bother you, just go eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Like what I would probably do if I wasn't going to do it at all, I would probably do 150 times 200. That gives me 30,000. So if you took nothing off, it would be 30,000 square feet. So I could say, oh, okay, I can at least do that. And then I'd be like, now my guess I would have said, let me choose a number in between these two, because why not? If I just had to guess, because they'll probably put a number too high, probably put a number too low, and one that's just right. So I probably would have guessed A, even if I didn't try to do the math. And you know what? If you really have no idea how to do the problem, that's better than nothing. It's better than choosing D. Even if you chose A, B, or C, you got a 33 and a third chance of getting it right, just by a guess. Oh, look, more math. All right, 92. An investor is analyzing a 20-unit apartment complex. 12 units rent for $950 a month. 8 units rent for $1,100 a month. The property has a 7% vacancy rate and annual operating expenses of $98,000. The investor wants a cap rate or 8% return. What's the maximum price the investor should pay? All right, we got two things here we got to know how to do. We're looking for the maximum price the investor should pay. So what's the value? We're looking for the value of the property. And we know we find that by taking NOI and dividing it by the cap rate. That's how we find value. But this problem is asking us to find NOI. And how do we do that? Well, let's make this go up here. NOI, you take your potential income. You take out vacancies. You take out expenses. And then you'll have your NOI. So you got to do each of those steps. You got to find your potential income, take out the vacancies, take out the expenses, and then you'll find your NOI. And remember, NOI is annual. So we got to take all these numbers and find annual amounts. So there's a 20-unit apartment building. 12 of them are at $950. 8 of them are at $1,100 a month. So I'm going to do the 12 times $950. That means that's $11,400 a month coming in there. And then we've got the 8 of them. 8 times 1,100 is going to give me 8,800 a month. So I'm going to add those two together. So I'm going to do the 8,800 plus the 11,400. So in a month, potentially, you could make 20,200. That's our potential monthly. But we got to find annual. So I'm going to take the 20,200, multiply it by 12. So that gives me $242,400 annually. But we got to take out our vacancies. If vacancies are 7%, then I know I'm not going to get all of the 242,400. I'm going to get 93% of that. So I'm going to take the 242,400 and multiply it by 93%. And that's going to give me 225,432. Now, if anybody's confused as to why I did the 93%, let me know. I will go back. Okay. Hey, Marily. That is a 4. Let me make sure I know that's a 4. Boop. So that is our, that's not our answer because we did not take out our annual operating expenses of $98,000. So 225,432 subtract 98,000. That's going to give me 127,432. And then I got to take our NOI divided by cap rate because this is our NOI. Right? We knew our potential income. We took out vacancies. We took out expenses. They gave us our annual NOI. So now I'm going to take the 127,432 and I'm going to divide it by our cap rate, which is, what was our cap rate? 8%? Ah. So 127,432 divided by 8%, I got $1,592,900. Now, I don't see that answer in there anywhere. So let me make sure I didn't mess anything up. Because you would think I didn't, but who knows?
Candice, do you not think that we need to minus the 7%? I mean, the 2-unit will be free from the rent because the vacancy, we did not minus the vacancy. I know you did it at 93% because you just subtracted the 7% at the end.
Yes. So
but do we not do this at the beginning?
Nope, you don't do it at the beginning. This step is taking out the 7%.
Oh,
That is
okay.
definitely taking out the 7% because if 100% of the units were rented annually, you would make $242,400. But you know that you're probably not going to get 7% of that, which brings you down to you'll probably only make the $225,432. Let me make sure that number's right. So $242,400 times 93%, 225, 432. All right. That one, then we take out our operating expenses, subtract 98,000, 12, 127, 432, divided it by 8%. 1,592,900. Okay, let me see what the answer key says. The answer key says our answer is D. Let me see how they got this. All right, they said D, 1,625,000. So they took the 12 times 950 plus the 8 times, which was 1,100 times 12. They got the 20,200. I'm just marking these off. So they too got this number, the 20,200. Then they got the 242,400. Okay, the 242,400. And then they said 93%, which would be 127,432. They have that number. Value equals cap rate. That would be 152,900. Then it says, let me check to get, okay. So they got the same answer. Okay, and this is what I don't like. Next time I make these questions, so they're saying C, that's our closest answer. They will not do this to you on the test. Oh, thank you, Merely. I had a very wonderful birthday. I was kidnapped on Sunday in a good way for my birthday, which I wasn't even near a computer to tell y'all I wasn't going to be here. So I got to find a way to phone that in. But yeah, C is, we did it right. Something that, and this is to remember, if you're going to be doing questions that are done by AI, I now know that I have to tell AI, make sure none of the math is a guesstimate. Make sure the math answers are absolutely correct. It's done this a couple times. But I mean, if you know you did the math right, I would in real life do this. Just go with the quickest, the closest answer. Silly AI. All right. 93. A buyer is purchasing a condo in a 50-unit building. The HOA's reserve fund currently holds $45,000, but an engineering report estimates that the building needs $380,000 in roof repairs within 2 years. What's the buyer's greatest financial risk from this information? Well, they're not asking us to do math, right? And we're looking for the buyer's risk. And what I see is somehow all 50 units are going to need to come up with the difference between this number and this number, right? Because they have 45,000, but they can't completely empty their reserves. So they're going to need to come up with like $330 some odd thousand to cover this. So which would be the greatest financial risk? The buyer may receive a tax deduction for the repair costs. Well, that wouldn't be a risk. The monthly HOA dues may increase slightly to cover routine maintenance. I mean, yeah, that's true, but routine maintenance would not be roof repairs. I mean, I'm not going to completely, but don't like it all that much. The HOA will simply defer the repairs indefinitely. No. They have to fix the roof. A significant special assessment is likely, potentially costing each unit owner thousands of dollars to fund the shortfall between the reserves and the repair cost. Yes, I like this one. This is a much better answer because this whole routine maintenance thing, So, yep, our answer is D. Oh, thank you, Miss Trix. Thank you very much. D's our answer. Like it. All right, 94. Ooh, a capital gains question. Let me take That's it. Now, are we all familiar with what capital gains are? We know that's the money you get taxed on. So, if you win the lottery, you go to a show, a game show, and you win money. And at the end of the recording, they say that, the person who won is responsible for the taxes. Those are the capital gains taxes. So, a real estate investor purchases a property for $500,000, spends $75,000 on capital improvements, and later sells it for $650,000. For tax purposes, what is the investor's capital gains? Well, we don't want the government to be like, hey, let's tax you on $650,000. Absolutely not. Because when you pay capital gains, it should be on monies that you actually made that are new. So you sold it for $650,000. It didn't list any other expenses, so we know this is our amount realized. This is what you got from the sale. That's what you realized. But that's not all it's not all new. When you bought the property, you bought it for $500,000, and then you spent another $75,000 of your own money on this property. So $575,000 is your adjusted basis. I'm doing this because I want you all to know these terms. Amount realized, adjusted basis. All right, so yeah, you know what, government? You thought I made $650,000, but really $575,000 of that was my money. So when we do the math, I feel like I should be able to do that in my head. $650,000, what is that? $75,000? Pretty sure. $650,000 minus $575,000. Hey, that's $75,000. That's our new to me money. This is our capital gains, and that makes our answer B. Woo, woo. Yay. I see y'all getting that right. Nice, Miss Caroline. All right, 9 to 5. A borrower has a 30-year fixed mortgage with a current balance of $185,000 at 4.25% interest. Market rates have risen to 6.75%. A new lender offers a refinance at 6.75%. Should the borrower refinance? I love this question, right? Now let's look. The borrower has a 30-year fixed at 4.25%. Now a new lender has come along and been like, hey, why don't you pay a higher interest rate? Nah. Why would I pay you higher interest? That sounds stupid, because it is stupid. But nobody's doing that. Ain't nobody trying to pay more. So it's not yes. We know the answer is not this one or not that one. I don't even have to read the rest, because absolutely not. I am not paying you a higher interest rate. What, so I can say that I refinanced and pay off your mortgage with the money you make off me? Absolutely not. So now we got to choose between A and B. No, because refinancing into a significantly higher interest rate would increase both the monthly payment and the total interest paid over the life of the loan. Well, that's true. Or no, but only because closing costs make it impractical. Absolutely not. Not to mention the closing costs. So 95 absolutely is A, because we use common sense around here. We use common sense. And you know what, guys? Silly enough, some people don't get this. I mean, this is why we call you the real estate professionals. We know what it means to be a fixed, right? Now, if it was an ARM, we'd be having a different conversation. We are not financial geniuses, but we are in real estate, and we should be able to have basic conversations like this with our clients. We should, right? That we need to be able to do that. That's all I'm saying. Okay, let's go to 100, even though that's going to run over my time. I don't care. I missed y'all on Sunday. I mean, honestly, I thought about y'all for like 2 seconds, and then I went back to having fun. But I did think about you. I was like, oh no. And then I was like, back to fun. So, 96. A property owner grants a utility company the right to run power lines across their property. This creates, all right, we got utility companies and they got the right to run power lines. Sounds like a type of easement to me. So we know it's not a license. We know it's not a profit apprender. I forgot what that means. I have to look that up. I know it's a fancy word for something. But is it an easement in gross or an appurtenant easement? Well, we know a pertinent easement, two P's and a pertinent, and that means we need two properties,
Yeah.
and we don't have that. So our answer is A, an easement in gross. Anytime you see this word's utility, that is what we want to remember. Now, I want to look up what a apprender, however you say that, I don't know, but it's a word I've seen every so often, and I'm going to remind myself what it means. So, definition. Helps if I spell the word definition right. Of a profit, a pirendre. It means, oh, that's right. It is French for a profit to take. Why do we have French words, even though our language is, our laws are based off of English? And it's a legal right that allows a person to enter another's land and remove natural resources or products from it, such as timber, mineral, wild game, or fish. All right. So it's the right to it's so that you can take the natural resources. So we're going to say take natural resources from else's land. Let's see. I'm trying to think of this. Is there a way to remember this? Can we make a cute way to remember this? A profit, a print. So maybe this is going to sound stupid, but I think in my mind, I'm going to think of dollar signs as little like geese or something, right? And that you can take, or like mink or beaver coats or whatever, and you get to hunt these and then make some money off of it. I don't know. That's how I'm gonna have to remember. It's something silly. Got nothing. I'll work on it. All right, 97. During a title search, the examiner discovers that a previous owner obtained title through a quitclaim deed from a grantor with a judgment lien. Which statement is most accurate about the current owner's title? Okay, so during a current title search, the examiner discovers that a previous owner obtained a title. Okay, so let's see what we got here for options. We have A, the title insurance company must cover any loss from the judgment lien, regardless of the policy type. I mean, I don't really love that one. I mean, no, they don't have to cover any loss regardless of policy type. Yeah, I'm going to say that can't be right. B, the judgment lien is invalid because it was not recorded before the deed transfer. Well, the only way for this to be discovered would probably be if it was recorded. So that doesn't make sense. C, the quitclaim deed extinguishes the judgment lien. Well, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with the current owner's title. I mean, that was in the past. So let's see. Hopefully the answer is D. The current owner may hold title subject to the judgment lien, since the quitclaim deed transferred only what the grantor had. Now that sounds like a good answer, because you can't you can only give what you've got, right? So I got to go with D. I know A is not right. I know B is not right. I know C is not right. I don't love D, but I feel like D, yeah, yeah. I got to go with D. That's what I got to go with. Caroline says D. Anita says D. Stacy says D. I'm glad y'all look. Most accurate looks, right? That's what I'm saying too. Let's see if I'm right. Sometimes y'all, for the most part, pull it together, Candace. I know when an answer's right, but we're saying D. Let's not put it in red. Let's see if we're right, y'all. Y'all got to the answer before I did. All right, survey says, hey, the answer's D. The answer's D. Hey, the answer's D. Do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance, do a little dance. Hey, 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 hey. Y'all got there before I did. It's because y'all are so good. Yes, our answer is D. And we understand why. I don't love D, but I knew it wasn't A and B, and I was 99% sure it couldn't be C. So, hey, that's okay. We don't have to love it. We just got to get it right. And we did. Nice. Okay, 98. A property's legal description reads, the southern half of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of Section 22, Township 3 North, Range 5 East. How many acres does this parcel contain? So we've got the southern half of the northeast quarter of the northwest quarter of a section. And whenever I'm doing these, I start backwards. I know a section has 640 acres. So if we stopped right there, the northwest quarter of a section, we would take 640 and divide it by 4, because you said it's a quarter. So that means we have a northwest quarter, a northeast quarter, a southwest quarter, or southeast quarter. So I'm going to take that 640 and I'm going to divide it by 4. And that means if I stopped right there, it'd be 160 acres in each quarter. But we got to go on from that. We have another quartering, because now we're saying of that 160 acres, we're taking another quarter. So I'm going to do the 160 divided by 4. All right. And when you do that, what do you get? 40. And if we stop there, that would be fine. But this problem goes on and says, hey, you want the southern half of this 40 acres. So I'm going to take that 40 and divide by 2. And that's going to give me 20 acres. Is that like half a mule? 98. Boom. All right, 99. A real estate agent is hosting an open house, and a visitor who appears to have a disability asks, are there other people with disabilities in this neighborhood? Under the Fair Housing Act, the agent should not say anything. If they asked if there were any other people of color, of people of a religion, if there were kids there, we all know that you cannot say anything, and disabilities are protected the same way. So yeah, the agent should just, I by law, I'm not allowed to answer that question, right? So A, answer honestly to help the visitor feel more comfortable, only if you want to feel comfortable in jail. Just saying. B, provide detailed demographic information about the neighborhood. Again, hope you like orange. C, suggest the visitor look at neighborhoods for known accessibility. No. That's like saying, oh, why don't you go see if there's any kind of religious paraphernalia around? Absolutely not. And then D, decline to answer questions about the characteristics of residents in the neighborhood, as this could constitute steering. You know what? I like D. D is our answer, because the other ones are wrong, and because, yeah, you can't answer any questions about the characteristics of the residents. You are there to talk about the real estate property, not who lives in the real estate. Right. Hey, Jasmine. Hello. Sorry, I just saw that. Hello. All right. And then you got 100. A tenant signs a 2-year commercial lease at $3,200 a month. The lease contains an escalation clause requiring a 3% annual increase. Midway through year one, the landlord sells the property. Which statement is most accurate? You know what, guys? All of this is fluff. Look, there's a landlord. The landlord sells the property. What happens to the lease? And you know that a lease is a type of estate. And it's a non-freehold estate, but the new owner doesn't get to change anything about it because it's an estate. That person has the right to possess it. So let's look. A, the new owner may terminate the lease within 60 days notice. No. The tenant has an estate. B, the lease survives the sale and the new owner is bound by all its terms, including the escalation clause. I like that one. C, the tenant must negotiate a new lease with the new owner at current market rates. Nope. Or D, the escalation clause is voided by the sale, but the base rent remains enforceable. That sounds great and all, but no. I have a lease. The fact that the landlord died doesn't mean my rights and that were given to me in that lease died. So our answer is unequivocally B. Ta-da! There we go. All right, we have our answer here. So again, sorry I missed, between Easter and my birthday a couple of times, but I am back here. I'm back focused with you all. I will be back here Sunday, 7 p.m. Don't worry, I will be here. And thanks, guys. I hope you had an amazing week. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I'll see you on Sunday. Oh, okay, Anita, go ahead. We can talk about timeshares. I don't mind. And in fact, I won't cut off the recording just in case somebody from North Carolina is here. But go for it. Anybody else, if you don't want to learn about timeshares, you're free to go. But Anita, go for it. What's your question? How are timeshares used? Okay, so good question. How are timeshares used? What generally happens, and this is going to be timeshares everywhere. In fact, I have a great picture of this. Let me find it. Liens. Sorry to scroll like this. Timeshares. Poop there. All right. So imagine this is just any month. When you own a timeshare, depending on the arrangements of your timeshare interest, let's say you're owner 2 and I'm owner 1. What it means is at least, at some point within, some period of time, I get to stay there, and this time I'm get to stay there for 12 days at the beginning of this month. And then since you're another owner, you get to stay another 12 days, for another time. And let's say that Stacy is an owner. She would be able to stay, for another 12-day period. So when you're a timeshare owner, you're sharing ownership of that property. You own it, but we're each taking turns. It's kind of like if you have kids, and let's say you had 3 kids and 1 iPad, and you're talking about a 24-hour period. You might say, hey, kid, one kid gets the iPad between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., and another kid gets it between 1 and 6, and the other kid gets it between 6 and 11. You get your own space to use that property, and nobody else should be using it. So if I'm the middle child and I get the time between 1 and 6, it's my time. I could choose to leave it there and not touch it. It's still my time, or I can use it. It's my time. We all share the iPad. We all share the timeshare. And that's why people do it. Usually it's more vacation spots. So like, hey, you get, 2 weeks at the beach every summer, or, maybe you get you get two weeks per year, as part of your timeshare. Usually that's how people do it. So it's an affordable vacation place to stay. Because as prices go up, let's say your parents had bought a timeshare 35 years ago, right? Their it's all paid for. So now you just got to worry about traveling to your timeshare. Maybe it's in Bermuda. If your parents bought that timeshare and now it belongs to you, that space and ability to stay there 2 times a year, each time for 2 weeks, that's yours. It's already paid for. You own that right. Does that make sense, Miss Anita?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I understood this and I was doing the time share questions and I found this question and that really made me confused. So can you just look into this question? I'm just sharing the screenshot with you and just let me know if I did wrong
Yeah, let me
because
take a look.
yeah,
Oh,
I've
wait, are
just
you
put it
sharing
here.
it through a picture?
Yeah, I just shared the picture on this one. I think the picture is like,
Oh,
I
there it
think we
goes.
need to
Okay, let
rotate
me
that one. Yeah.
see. Uh, let me take a
Uh,
look.
are you able to see this?
Yeah, I got it downloaded, desktop.
And maybe rotate it. Yeah.
All right, and then now let me pull it up on my desktop. Do, do, do. Recent desktop. And now let me flip it so I can read it. Do, view, zoom out, rotate to the left. Okay. In North Carolina, a developer desires to sell timeshare units. Which of the following statements is false? So you said the developer must obtain a firm license. Okay. And it says a project broker must be appointed to supervise transactions. Well, that is true. A a project broker. Remember, a project broker is like the broker, the BIC of a timeshare.
Mm-hmm.
And every
Mm-hmm.
timeshare does have to have that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is a true statement. So that's why B is not correct. Right? In fact, I'm going to share this screen for everybody to see. To do share screen here. So everybody can see it. Boom. Hopefully everybody can see that. Now, this is a North Carolina specific question, but we're looking for the one that is false.
Mm-hmm.
B is true. A is true. There is no separate real estate license for timeshare sales. If you want to
Correct.
sell timeshares, you need a North Carolina real estate license. That's a true statement. And D, the timeshare project must be registered with the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. Again, that is a true statement. No developer can start a timeshare project without permission from the commission. So the statement is false, is that the developer must obtain a firm license. No, the developer is just a developer, just like any place else. But when the developer is ready to sell and start selling these timeshares in North Carolina, they will need a North Carolina real estate license. That sales, the people selling. That doesn't mean they have to do a firm license. That is why C is the right.
Yeah, so I picked C, but when I click confirm, it showed me C is wrong, B is right. And I was confused on this one
Yeah,
only.
I think that
That
is
the
just a mistake in the answering thing because it even
okay.
says developers are selling their own property and not required to obtain a license. Like,
Okay.
yeah, that's not, yeah, you got
Okay.
to have a project broker.
Y-
Go
I
ahead.
got it. I got it. I'm so sorry to hold you a little longer. But a simple question. I know it's a silly question to ask, but I'm just confused.
Hmm.
To be valid, a listing agreement. If the listing agreement is valid, what are the things? There are four options has been given. Must be in writing, maybe oral or written, must be an express agreement, or must be enforceable. So to be valid, a listing agreement, it has to be in writing, right?
Yes.
But the answer is showing me maybe oral or written. If I'm not wrong, the only agreement we can go with the oral agreement is the
Yeah,
buyer agreement.
read the question again.
Oh yeah. Do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead and yeah, I'll share. You go ahead. I'm gonna stop share. You share your screen if you want. Or
Yeah.
you can either send it to me or you can
Yeah, I'll
or
just
share your screen.
I'll just copy here. 1 second.
Mhm.
If you can just do this. See this question.
All right, let me share my screen again.
I'm so sorry for holding you for
No,
this
you're
long.
okay. Oh, let's see. Let me share screen. Where did my share screen button go? Here it is. Boo, boo, boo. Share. Let me just do it this way. To be valid, a listing must be in writing. Okay, that's true. May be oral or written. B is wrong. It must be expressed. Well, that's true too. And it must be enforced. It doesn't, I mean, it doesn't have to be enforceable. I mean, it should be a contract, but I guess you could do something to make it unenforceable, like put something illegal in. That would make it void, though. So the best answer I would say is that it must be in writing.
Yeah, I
And what did
chose
it
this
say was
one.
the answer was?
B, maybe oral or written. And I was confused because the listing agreement cannot be oral agreement, right?
Yeah, not in North Carolina, it cannot. Is this a North Carolina specific question or?
No, it was in nationals.
Yeah, I don't know of any listing agreements in any states that can be oral, so that could be a mistake as well.
Oh,
Let me see.
okay. Then I'm
Let me
good.
double
Okay.
check with that though.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just gonna go to Chat GPT and just
Thank
double check.
you.
I mean, it could, maybe there are, but I can tell you in North Carolina, we don't have any oral. Are there any states in which an oral listing agreement is allowed between an agent and a owner? I mean, the answer could be yes. I don't know. Almost never, and is for the exam purposes, it is treated as no. So yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm like, it was maybe a technical glitch or maybe the answer
Mm-hmm.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I'm
because
good.
of
Thank
this,
you. Thank you.
and look, it even tells you because of the statute of frauds. It's, so yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
You're
That's
very
really,
welcome.
it's really helpful. I was confused. How is this like I'm literally making mistakes or like in these silly questions. How am I going to pass the exam? I
Well,
was
and
like,
this is why I'm here. I do not mind at all. And if you get
thank
questions
you.
like this, bring them to me because I am more than happy to do you know what I'm trying to say? Like to talk about them with you because
Awesome. Thank you.
yeah, questions aren't perfect, whether it's AI or anything else. So that's exactly why I'm here. Bring all the questions you want, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
All
you. I
right.
really appreciate you,
All right,
Candace. Thank you.
everybody. I hope
Yeah.
that
See you next
helps.
time.
And I'll see you
Yeah,
next
of
time.
course.
Bye,
Yeah.
Thank you,
everybody.
Candace. Bye.
Bye-bye. Enjoy
Bye.
your birthday month.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye. Take care.